Welcome back to the Elevated Podcast. This time around, we're joined yet again by Colton. This episode explores living life with intention, balancing achievement and connection, as well as how I'm actually just a robot in a human body, and much more. It's a longer episode, definitely a yap session. Nonetheless, you'll enjoy it. Get back at it. All right, cheers, everybody.
Yappity yap there.
So, we're sitting on a tree. You take these fucking time. Damn. You're so fucking high up. Come take a seat, Colton. Come take a seat. Today is a very exciting day, I guess. It's going to be a very interesting episode.
I'm excited to see what you have in store for us. Oh, we're good. Okay. Oh.
So, how should we start this off? Where to begin? I think we begin with what's in the bag.
What?
What's in the bag, Colton?
What's in the bag?
What's in the box?
Well, we've got a few goodies. I'll pull out the first one. This is an Olympus film camera.
Oh my god, a little ASMR. Wow.
This is it's like a family relic. I can't remember who had this before, but I'm pretty sure this was my mom's, like, for a while.
Ooh. That's beautiful.
It's so sick.
That's beautiful.
I've got I've got black and white film in here.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 3 photos left on this reel. I believe it's I'm at 33 out of 36. And
We got to use one of them up today.
Oh, we're gonna take one.
Yeah,
Or
we
probably 2. Like I'll take one of you here, and then you'll take one of me sitting here.
Can you set it on a timer or something?
Absolutely not. This thing is so old.
Mm.
I probably can set a timer, but like I don't really trust that.
Yeah.
It's film, man. I wanna see what I'm taking the picture of, you know?
Sure, but wait, is there a thing on the bottom? We could hook it up to the... Yeah.
Oh.
We gotta hook it up to this. We could put it on the other little platform.
Yep.
Slide it in.
And then
line it up.
Set a timer.
Fuck yeah.
I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that. That's really cool.
Nice little film camera. Capture the memories. Very important.
Yeah.
For when we get dementia. Make sure that we actually remember who we are and where we've been.
Holy, hopefully not, but yeah.
All right, so that's little surprise number 1. What's number 2?
Surprise number 2 is a JanSport bag.
Nice JanSport bag. Okay, what's surprise number 3?
No. Sponsored by Zoomies. No.
By Zoomies. God. I bought a $50 bucket hat off Zoomies, and that's my only...
Really?
Yeah, that's been my only interaction.
Damn.
And I'm not...
I wouldn't go back.
I'm not... Yeah, it was...
$50 bucket hat?
I don't know.
Is it good?
That was the one with the one I wore for last time, the floor one.
Yeah.
I like it, but I
like
think
it too.
It's not worth $50.
Yeah, I'd pay about $15 for that.
Yeah, I'd go 20.
But I mean, like, that's...
I tried to find the same thing on Amazon, couldn't find one, so I just said fuck it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool though. I won't lie. Like,
I like it. Anyway, what's in the bag?
What's in the bag? Well, got a bunch of pens.
Okay.
And I brought my sketchbook.
Last time we were talking about sketching, we were talking about doing something each episode.
Oh, here.
Here,
wait. The crinkle.
The crinkle. The crinkle. We finally heard it.
There's a little guy right there. So yeah, I was thinking that if one of us has a story, the other one can just like take the sketchbook.
Now,
do whatever you want.
I think the sketchbook's the backup plan.
It's 100%.
I think surprise number 3 is the main course.
Got so many pens in here, dude.
And those are expensive pens too. I know.
Some of them.
If you had to estimate how many dollars worth, like a monetary value to the amount of pens.
Just this, or in general?
Just in that bag alone. Just an estimate. What do you think?
Let's see here.
Because like my guess would be $12.
12.
I know it's way more than that, but that would be my guess.
Okay, so I've got a Kaweco fountain pen, stainless steel. That one's pretty up there. I've got a Rotring mechanical pencil. I've got a Copic here, just some pretty standard like $5 microns, and then this guy's really, really special. This is a Rapidograph. I can't remember what it's actually called. What kind of pen it is. It's like a technical pen or something, but it's really cool. It has like a metal tip, and the ink comes through there, and then you have like a really tiny needle that comes through the metal tip. And oops, thanks. And when you actually like press it onto the paper, the needle retracts and the ink comes out. And then
it is very cool up close.
It's pretty sweet, yeah. But I would probably say like $450.
450?
Probably.
What's the most expensive one?
This guy right here.
How much did that cost?
We'll leave that up to the audience to figure out. Or as in like I'm not saying.
This is a very cool pen.
That is
Very
my
cool.
pride and joy right there.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
I remember seeing you write with this.
Yeah.
Very cool.
The rapidograph. Hello. The rapidograph. This would probably be the next. No, probably the Rotring. This is a mechanical pencil.
Okay, so what are the top three? Give like the name
Exactly.
specifications.
Yep. So this is a Rotring 0.5 millimeter mechanical pencil. I actually got that while I was in Japan at this museum when I was in Tokyo, and it wasn't a Rotring museum or a Rotring store or anything. It just they had some architecture stuff there, and Rotring is a pretty well renowned company for doing pens as well as pencils for like super technical work.
Cool.
And this was, I believe, $75.
Damn.
And this guy here,
Got the
that's the rapidograph. That's
the rapidograph.
the technical
The
pen.
Kohinoor?
Yeah, that one's cool. It requires a lot of upkeep and maintenance, and if you don't actually use it, because there's a little ink cartridge in here, if you don't use it enough in between like drawing sessions, the tip will actually dry up, and then you have to take it apart, all the little tiny pieces, very, very, very carefully.
Oh, I bet.
And
Yeah,
clean
it's like craftsmanship. Right?
Yeah.
Like very detailed craftsmanship.
It's kind of nuts though, like pulling the little needle out of here and trying to feed it back in from the inside. Ooh.
Okay, so what's that one worth? And then we'll leave the top one as a
Yep.
little unknown.
This one's like, I think this one's like $49.
Okay.
Yeah.
$49. And then the top one, what's the name of the top one so people can like discover that for themselves if
This
they
is
actually give a shit.
this is a stainless steel Coeco Sport fountain pen.
Coeco Sport fountain pen.
Yeah. And it's got I'm pretty sure it's just got a regular Coeco tip.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, and you can search that one up. So what's surprise number 3?
Hey, you got a little wasp on your... Oh, he's gyrating his behind.
Oh my God, he's twerking. He's twerking. He's grabbing like the thorax and just like moving it up and down. I don't know if that's the thorax, but the little tail bit.
It almost looks like it's breathing, but it's like, what the heck?
Yo, it's like a fly wasp.
It is.
Anyway, surprise number 3.
Surprise number 3, and this is kind of the main show here. Well, let's go 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3.
Sure.
We've got a Rubik's Cube.
A 2x2 Rubik's Cube.
This is a 2x2 Rubik's Cube.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I will mix this one up.
Surprise number 3.2.
Yep.
Oh, he's chilling there. He's actually just vibing. Bro, he's twerking.
dancing.
There's-
He
there's
is
a-
twerking.
There's a, what the heck is that?
He's making noise though. All right, surprise 3.2.
3.2?
Ugh.
A Rubik's Cube.
Another one.
But
3x3 this time.
This is a 3x3. This one's quite nice. This is technically not a Rubik's brand. It's a Speed Cube.
Speed Cube.
By
If you've ever like played around with a Speed Cube, they're so smooth. Like,
yeah, like when
just-
you take a
I'm
I don't
bad at it, but
oh dude, same. I don't
know.
have like the Speed Cube technique.
because you have to hold it in a very specific way, so you can just like flick, and it's just one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
There is a technique to it.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but it's very smooth.
And I've
Land on it. Oh. Okay, and then so we've got 3.1, 3.2, and we need 3.3.
Buddy's loving your shoe. He's still there. Okay, and 3.3 is a Rubik's Cube.
Is another Rubik's Cube. So here's the idea. He has more, by the way. We only brought 3 because
Yep.
we didn't think we'd get past this.
So this is a 4x4.
And what do you have that it goes up to?
It goes up to 7x7, and I was actually looking at getting an 8x8. However, those end up being like kind of expensive.
So here's the thing. We both know how to solve the 3x3. He knows how to solve all of these. I don't know how to solve the 2x2 or the 4x4 or 5x5 or 6x6.
I have solved them in the past. I won't say that I am well practiced and memorize all the algorithms and
Gotcha.
and all that stuff, but I can solve the problem pretty consistently.
So for the next little while, we're gonna start with the smallest and work our way back up and kind of like pass them back and forth and see how many we can get through over how many podcasts, and we'll try and finish with the 7x7 while we're just kind of like chatting. And so that's gonna keep us occupied like the little children we are. But today's topic, Colton, what is today's topic going to be about? Set us up here. How did we come across this topic? Where are we?
What's the topic?
All right, so I'll set us up. So a few days ago, I was telling Colton about something that I was doing. I didn't want to spill the beans.
Aha.
And you made I genuinely think, an extraordinary observation.
I remember.
It was an observation that me, being me, took a while to observe about myself. And I genuinely, it was a very profound observation about myself where I go, like I tend to have these characteristics that fall under this umbrella of classification. Gotcha. And Colton was like, man, you kind of seem like you're like this.
Yes.
Do you want to try setting it up now?
Absolutely.
I think I gave you the context.
I think you did, yes.
Yeah.
I was driving home after, I think I was just driving home after work one day, and it must have been something else, but I know you texted me.
It was a little get-together with your company or something like that.
Yeah. And you had, we went, actually, now I'm remembering now, we went and saw Deadpool.
Yes, Deadpool,
yes.
Right. You saw the Deadpool movie.
Which was absolutely hilarious, by the way.
I love that movie. Yeah.
Really, really funny. Or I guess Deadpool and Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
When I got out of the movie theater, you had sent me a text, and it was something to do with the podcast, saying how you're like super pumped. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, I think I sent you a text back, and you replied right away with like a big ass paragraph, and you were like, man, this is what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit.
You're like, let's call. This is
okay. Well, like I'm in Chinook, like I'm about to drive like 45 minutes home, right? We gotta. I ain't sitting here and having this like 5-minute conversation, and then driving home and then having like, oh, what was the conversation about again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, man, we got a call. I'm gonna drive home. So we got on the phone, and Derek proceeds, as per usual, when Derek is updating me on something that he's interested in, or something that he wants to do with his life,
mm-hmm.
Or like an adventure or a challenge or something
project
to,
or something little
project to work on. I'm always really interested because you're the kind of guy that will just try to set up an idea that's like, hey, I'm going to develop this thing, typically with AI or with something to do with computers, and it's going to act as a tool that will allow me to do more things more efficiently in the future.
Mm-hmm.
That is typically what I hear from you. And if you're not doing that, it's like, hey, I'm going to work on this side project that's going to teach me a whole bunch of things about like social media and content creation and learning how to like best harness that skill. Mm-hmm. Which will also lead into a tool that will help you with other things.
It's leveraging as much as I can, right?
Exactly.
One tool to leverage a skill, or one skill to leverage
a tool,
an outcome, or whatever it may be, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I was like, man, this is absolutely fascinating. And then I was like, I want to interrupt you really quick, because you were talking about this project that you have, and I was like, you know what? That sounds really cool, and I don't discredit it at all. However, I'm worried.
Mm-hmm.
Slightly. And the main reason why I said that is because I mentioned that it sounds like you are treating yourself as a machine. And no matter what you're doing or where you're, whoa, bro, there's so many bugs today. Look at this guy. He's on my shoulder.
I know he's twerking on you now.
He's just chilling on the Vans logo.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I basically said that it seems to me like whenever you're in a rut or caught in a down point in your life where you feel kind of like nothing's sort of stimulating you in the ways that you want, and you may be bored and you're not really advancing the ways that make you feel like, like you matter and like what gets you up in the morning kind of stuff. I find that you typically resort to starting a project or doing something that will keep you motivated in terms of like creating a task or creating a machine or some kind of tool. And then I often find that when you get doing that, you're like, man, I can't work 24/7 on this project, and it's bothering me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna just put something in my bag so it doesn't blow away. So you were talking about how you were a little bit like conflicted with motivation and like doing all these things, and then you're also feeling a little bored, right? That's what I recall. And chime in, please. I mean, it's your life we're talking about here.
Yeah. So it was. I was giving some details about one little like challenge that I was wanting to film and then make a little video out of. I'm trying to get more into the headspace of being a creator and a producer rather than a consumer.
Right.
And this challenge has a lot of strict restrictions, and I actually stopped doing it for one reason, which is I want to make sure that I'm doing it for the right reasons. And it all cascaded from that little comment, which he said, Derek, sometimes I feel like you're treating yourself like a machine.
Yeah.
Right. And he did an Uno reverse piece of advice. I gave him the piece of advice of give yourself something to look forward to. Right.
Yep.
And he was like, Derek, you give yourself something to look forward to. It doesn't always have to be work, work, work. Right.
And I actually mentioned that because you were like, man, I can't like, so you were talking about this challenge that you wanted to do. It was like a 90-day thing or something like that.
Yep.
And I was like, man, that sounds awesome. Like I all power to you. But it seems like you don't have anything that's going on right now that is actually motivating you to sort of feel good about what you're doing. And I was like, take one day a week, on Sunday, like on Saturdays, we come out here and we're doing this. And if you want to view this as some kind of work or producing something, then maybe that will be healthy for your mindset. But take one day a week. I was like, take Sunday and do something for you, not for your future.
I'm very close.
Okay.
I'm very close.
He's got one side.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, do something for you right now that makes you feel like you matter to you, right? Because I was like, it doesn't matter what other people think or what your, online persona is when you're taking care of yourself, right? Like, take that day and just do something. And I didn't even say that day. I was like, take that day to do one thing in that day, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, man, no, I can't. If I'm going to do something, I have to do it with like maximum restriction.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah.
Like 7 days a week. And I was like, the alarms were going off in my head, and I was like, something's not right here.
Mm.
And so then you started sharing about this this video thing that you wanted to do. And I was like, man, that sounds really, really interesting, but it seems like you're doing this for the wrong reasons. And I was like, hey, man, I am concerned that you are viewing yourself as a machine, and you're not satisfied with your performance if you're not able to continue being a machine 24/7 all the time. And when you make one falter, one little slip up, it like defeats your whole sort of momentum. And all of a sudden it's like, well, Can't do it anymore. We're done.
And it's because I like tied my self-worth in with that. And so I'm gonna kind of like try and map out exactly what's going on, because hopefully some people can relate. Yeah, I solved it earlier at his house, and I was just fucking around. I don't know what I was doing, but I managed to get it. Anyway, let me lay all this on the table, because I think I have sort of this. Shut up. I think I have sort of this tendency of associating a lot of my personal value and worth with this persona of like discipline, work, output, and the main motivation behind that, underlying that, is that I want to try and be a leading example of what people can do when they apply themselves.
Long-term achievement. Kind of mindset, sort of.
Yeah, and it's more of just like, I think the best way to change people's hearts and minds is to do it through example, and leading by example, and being an inspiration, but not one that sort of shouts these like affirmations, but one that just does it in silence, where it's like, oh, like, nobody's watching him, but that guy's picking up trash off the street, right?
Yep.
And it's like, everybody else, like, I've watched 24 people walk by that little piece of trash, but he took the time to stop, pick it up, and put it away, right? Doing something right when nobody's looking. And so a lot of the times I think, well, what's the best way to do that? Well, if someone looked at my life and was like, Derek, you spend every waking hour working on some project, some part of yourself, helping someone else, doing blah, 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 right? Then there's no dead space. There's no part of my waking hour that anyone could go, that's not something to draw inspiration off of.
Yep, that someone could criticize or even just not be inspired from. Right,
and so then it's, oh my God, this guy's twerking too. So then it gets into this rhythm where sometimes I'm putting everything, what's the right phrasing here? Everything in my life, the things that I decide to include into my day-to-day activities, whether that's like exercising, meal planning, dieting, working on projects, working on a startup company, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. All of that is for someone else, right? It's not only for me, right? Because obviously I'm not exercising for someone else, right? I'm exercising for my own health. I'm not meal planning so someone else can eat that food. I'm meal planning for me, right? But it's that I'm doing that so that the result is someone can glance upon my life and go, this guy's doing something good for himself. Maybe I can do something for myself as well. And so it's this balancing act of doing something right for you so that way it can be right for others. But when you go all the way in one direction, it gets a little bit tricky.
I've got something for you. I was actually talking to my father, and it was really interesting because I mentioned the podcast, mm-hmm. and I mentioned this topic, and he had a quote for me.
Ooh, let's hear it. You know me, I love quotes.
I do. Yes, I do know that you do. So this is by a certain individual by the name of Thomas More. You should read his books, honestly. I think my mom has a few of his books. Pretty interesting. It's like, sure, it might be on the lines of like self-help books and stuff like that, but
nothing wrong with that. It can be a little wishy-washy sometimes. But.
Yeah, but hear me out. So,
shut up.
I think I saw a little chipmunk like run across the ground over there with his massive little tail. It was so funny. I think that's him. He's just saying hi. Where'd he go? Anyways, so this is a quote by Thomas More. When we relate to our bodies as having soul, we attend to their beauty, their poetry, and their expressiveness. Our very habit of treating the body as a machine, whose muscles are like pulleys and its organs engines, forces its poetry underground so that we experience the body as an instrument and see its poetics only in illness. That's
such a good quote.
So,
and it's so true, because that the poetry and the illness.
Yep.
That's what I've been living off of for the last little while. And I've been going, if I can work myself into the ground, someone will see me in the ground and go,
that's poetic.
They'll go, That's poetry right there.
It'd be like he gave his life.
He put in his all for this.
Exactly.
Right? And I think it's something to be, I don't know, there is something very profound in that fact. Like, and I think David Goggins is such a beautiful modern example of that, where it's just like, oh my God, like he has worked himself into the fucking ground.
Yep.
And it's an ideal to strive towards. But the problem is when you're trying to be an ideal in every facet of your life, that pulls you pretty thin.
Well,
but then on top of that, if the motivation isn't there for the right reasons,
yeah.
you like that. It's like you're just an instrument. You're just pulling the pulleys. There's no soul in it. Exactly. And I actually mentioned it earlier about AI in particular with AI generated art and music. There's no soul in that, right?
Exactly.
And so I've been thinking a lot about that specific mention of you treat yourself like a machine, and there's a lot of reasons for it. And I think this could be a diluted perspective on my history.
Okay.
But throughout a lot of high school and middle school and growing up, a lot of my friends were online, right? A lot of my friends were not the ones that were in person.
Yep.
And so being familiar with how to develop out those kinds of social connections I was unfamiliar with it. It's something I had to learn at an older age. And so I have a fear that some of the deeper rooted lessons in what it means to be someone's friend and to make genuine social connections is lost upon me. That's a fear of mine. Whether it's true or not is a completely different discussion.
Interesting.
And so sometimes I feel like there's this barrier between me and any of my friends, even my family. And I think the only time I've really seen that barrier get torn down is with whoever, like with my my girlfriend or boyfriend. It's 2024. You never know.
Funny.
But with my partner, with my significant other, because my family, I know they're not going to be around with me forever. My friends, I know they're not going to be around with me forever. But my partner, that's the one person that I get to choose who's going to be around with me forever. And so I think that's enough for me to risk tearing everything down and being as open and vulnerable as I can.
Yes.
But I also feel like because I'm such a performance-based person that's so focused on efficiency and effectiveness, I go, why should I tear down all those walls with friends when I don't think that they're going to be like there's a time span, right?
Yep.
Friends come in seasons, and the longer seasons are the better ones, but they're not going to be in your life forever, right? And so I go, well, if I'm not currently seeing anyone, why should I open that side of my life up when I can just focus on being as performant as possible? Nice, by the way. And getting all these outcomes and, really focusing on all these inputs so that way I can try and build up my life for that moment. Regardless, all of that doesn't matter. The main takeaway is that I have this struggle of sometimes over-focusing on just the inputs and the outputs, really dealing every situation as at face value.
Yeah.
And not focusing on some of the soul in the situations.
I think that will honestly come to bite you.
Thanks.
Yep.
I
have.
Here's the thing. Because
okay.
I do want to keep touching on this, which is, I was gonna say I want to keep touching on this like a pedophile. Yeah, sorry, dumb joke. Anyway, I want to keep touching on this because I think it's a very important thing that I've had a decent number of revelations, right?
Okay.
The first one is I feel like, to a certain degree or another, there's almost this business-like filter over a lot of my relationships.
Okay.
Where it goes, things are good now, right? But things could go south very quickly. And if they do go south very quickly, I don't want to have the detachment from that relationship affect me.
So you're always prepared.
I'm always prepared. And there's pros and cons, right? Like there's some things where it's like, okay, if my mom came to me and was like, Derek, I never really believed in you. You've been working on the start, but it's never gotten to anything, right? You're a failure, blah, 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 blah. I would go, all right, fuck you too. Thanks for being such an ass about it. I'm going to go live my own life. You have fun, right?
Yep.
And so it's like, it's not this healthy thing because a lot of the moments in life that require that level of depth and soul in those moments where it's like, this is a risk, right? And I can feel comfortable around my family. That comfort isn't from, I'm by myself, fuck everyone else. Mm-hmm. That comfort is there like I can trust that these people will be there for me. And it's not that I
No
don't
matter
trust them.
what.
It's not that I don't care about them. It's not that I don't love them. All of those things are true, but it's just there's that part of me where it's like if they all turn their backs, I would have set up the shields enough that I would be okay to walk away from them all, right? And so then I get into this headspace where it's like the only person that ever shows up for me is myself. The only person that cares about me is myself. The only person that I tell myself all these things because then it gets me into this really gritty mindset of digging myself into the ground, self-inducing some suffering, because then that's where I can find the poetry and I could go, yeah, like I'm the one out here who's mentally suffering, but still working out, but still doing this, but still working 12, 13-hour days, but still doing this, and this, right? And that's where I find the value. And I go, because no one else is cheering me on, no one else is pushing me. Even though there's lots of people who are showing gratitude and thankfulness for my presence in their life and all of these fucking outstandingly wholesome things,
Yeah.
right? I still fall back on that. Nobody gives a fuck about you. You have to give them a reason to care. And this is how you're giving them that reason, right?
Whoa.
And it's like, it's that whole mindset of like, nobody cares, right? Nobody cares about you. And it's not true, but it's what I tell myself.
Why?
And one of the factors is that my entire life, people will always go like, if you need any help with anything, let me know.
Okay.
And I've always met that kind of like olive branch with, I'll figure it out myself, right? I will try my best to struggle through learning what's going on and playing around with it. And if I ever reach a brick wall, I'll reach out. And 98% of the time, I never have to reach out again because I figure it out. And so then I haven't figured out the right levels of maturity, right? Like if you imagine yourself growing in all these different directions, I haven't grown in the direction of let's like, yes, like please help me with this. Let's sit down, right? I always treat it with the approach of there's only me, and I'd rather take this opportunity to learn and grow, as opposed to, okay, I'm finding frustrations, and instead of pushing through those frustrations and then trying to figure out why, like, I'm not understanding it, I just always treat it with, no, I'm going to keep going through these frustrations and trying to learn something and understanding something, and I'm going to do it all myself because at the end of the day, I want to be able to rely only on myself instead of others. So it's like building this lone wolf mentality instead of this pack mentality where it's like, okay, I'm going to be the best at this, and I'm going to focus on this, and I'm going to bring other people on my team to help round me out.
Right.
Instead, I go, I'm going to round myself out as much as possible.
Okay.
And use other people's specialties and expertise and knowledge to do that. So that way, like, I don't need anyone else. But it's that whole I don't need anyone else that drives me into this machine mentality, that drives me into this no one else cares about you, etc., even though it's not true, right? And the new revelation I had was Western culture sets that up perfectly.
Oh, it does.
It's so rushed. It's all about occupation. It's all about what career, what job, whatever you're doing.
When you meet someone new, you're like, hey, hi, my name is blank.
We talked about that on the previous podcast. Right, exactly. And
yeah.
And so I'm like, well, there's different philosophies, there's different mindsets to this. And maybe this isn't just a result of my own, like, genetics, the way I'm wired, whatever, but also my environment.
Totally.
Right? And so I've been spending a lot of time reflecting on, like, in the society we live in, there's a lot of value placed in on, like, how much load you can take, how much weight you can bear.
How much suffering can you endure?
Exactly.
And that's what, like...
Right. It's like, oh, shit,
gives you your worth.
You work 14-hour days, you own a 7-figure business, right?
You sleep, like, 2 hours a night, you wake up at 3 a.m., you're constantly grinding, man.
Right. Those things are viewed with high prestige, with high value.
Yeah.
And for the last year and a half, I was like, that's what I want. I was like, that's what I want. But then after being like, okay, well, in order to get there, I need to have these days.
Yep.
Doing that for 2 days, I go, I'm miserable. Like, I'm like, this sucks. I haven't gotten to the point where there's so much reward and like recouping.
That the misery is worth it.
That the misery is worth it. So then I go, is this really what I fucking want? And I've been asking myself a lot of those questions.
Interesting.
Right? Do I want to be working 13 hours a day, pushing in all these domains of my life, just so at the end of it I can go, yeah, this is what I can take. This is who I am. Like, I can get shit done.
This is so interesting because you're looking at this whole...
it's all artificial. Like,
you're looking at this whole thing through the eyes of, like, perfect, complete logic.
Well, but here's the thing. It's like, I'm looking at the metrics of the quality of my life,
Exactly.
not as a piece of art where it's like, oh, there's this vibrant blue here, and that vibrant blue is like
You're
my
looking at it as a
relationships.
statistic.
I'm
as
viewing
like
it. I'm
like
viewing
a,
it as like a factory like report.
Yeah.
Where
Exactly.
it's like, okay, we have these ongoing projects, we have these active lines, these are the outcomes.
Yep.
Oh, this active line got shut down because of you took a nap, right? Like, that's how I'm viewing it, and I'm going, like you said, there's no soul in that.
Yes.
There's a problem there, and I think there's a right balance. I think you should pursue your goals. I think you should know what it means to work hard, but
Well, of course, but there needs to be soul in that because that gives you a purpose for being. Because it goes back to saying that we are human beings. We are not human doings. We are human beings. And what does it mean to you to be? What does it mean to you to feel alive? Because you can be alive, and you can do things that will be a result of you being alive, right? But at the end of the day, what does it mean to you to feel alive? And what is the purpose in that feeling?
well, and like the purpose or the reasonings or the value that you derive from it, right?
Exactly.
And here's the thing that I notice as well as I've been reflecting on this, because I've had the underlying perspective of all there is me. I can't rely on anyone else.
Right.
Why should I? Right? And a lot of the times when that happens, there will be times at the climbing gym when there's great opportunities for me to make friends,
Yep.
for me to make connections. But then after about a few conversations, I go, no, your quality isn't enough to be my friend. No one's quality is enough to be my friend. Your qualities are not enough. So I'm not going to put in the effort to try and be your friend. I'll be your friend here. It'll be situational.
Yep.
But even though there's a part of me that hungers for, like let's grab drinks after this. Let's go to Boston Pizza and grab something. Like let's have those social moments that are meaningful, right? There's a part of me that goes,
it's fickle and superficial.
It's fickle, it's superficial, and I go,
it doesn't get you towards your goal of
being a fucking working,
of being a machine.
Powerhouse.
Yeah.
You know?
Like doing that is another detriment to achieving that goal. And so it's almost like viewing it as a negative.
And in the moments, it's easy to tell yourself those things.
Yeah.
Right? And there's almost like this egotistical pleasure that you derive from it. Because you're like, like I'm putting myself above this person.
Yep.
Yeah, right? But as those adds up, you go, something's missing.
Something is definitely missing.
Right? It's like my pockets are feeling a little empty.
Huh.
Right? And it's because you've been denying all of those opportunities to be curious about someone, to genuinely get to know them. And when I'm in these conversations, it's not like I'm an egotistical ass.
No.
Right? Because
you're not. That's the thing. You usually.
But that's all outcome based, right? I'm like, what would the perfect person in this situation do? They would take genuine curiosity. Let me find something I'm genuinely curious about.
I always find that when you're in these scenarios and when you're meeting new people and you're kind of in that scenario of like having a little social interaction, I find it so interesting because I often see that you are very reserved and you don't push yourself to go outside of your comfort zone socially.
I do in some cases, but a lot of the times I go, okay, I've pushed myself out of my comfort zone in this way. I know I can conquer that situation.
Yeah.
So then I just ask myself, what am I looking to get out of this? And a
but
lot of
does
the times
it have to be a transaction?
That's the thing, right? A lot of the times it's not for the adventure.
Yeah.
It's for
what does this transaction benefit me or how?
Exactly. It's all transactional.
Interesting. So that brings it back to the idea of soul and what does it mean to actually have soul in everything that you do. And I find it really interesting that we're talking about this because the whole part of that quote that says that when you do things with soul, when you treat your body as having a soul, what you do instinctively has a poetry to it. And that word is used a little loose, but it's so interesting to me because when I was younger, I used to write poetry, right? When I was in grade 8 specifically, I had stopped being homeschooled. I was doing like online school, grade 7. And I went to public school in grade 8 that opened up in the community. Oh, it's a butterfly. And yeah, and we had this poetry unit, and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. I really like the idea of expressing oneself through words that have such a powerful meaning that you can actually change your perspective in a way that is like, whoa. You can change your perspective on life in a way that is so impactful and so meaningful that it can redefine your whole trajectory, and it can redefine meaning in every direction of your life. And
It's like it just it taps into all the different things.
absolutely.
Like the meaning of the words carry more weight than the sum of their parts. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
poetry is a very. I've been getting more into poetry actually, just for that fact, where it's like it's very.
I know, yeah.
It's very. I don't know. It has its own uniqueness to it. I can't fix this.
That's okay.
And so I've been asking myself a lot as well, because I'm like, what do I want, right? Like, what do I want? How do I want to spend my time? What do I want to pursue? What do I want to do? And how much of that is from me trying to, increase my outputs, increase my inputs, and how much of it is stuff that I'm genuinely interested in?
Yep.
And right now, my feed, especially on social media, is surrounded by the productivity, the motivation, the entrepreneur, like,
Yep.
digital marketing, all of that garbage. And I was like, I could get into these things and I could be really well at them. Like, I could do well, right? But am I adding any soul into it? Do I want to pick up drop shipping, try to be like a 6-figure entrepreneur, content creator? But then when I look at all of those things, I see what they're putting out into the world, and they're putting out into the world, okay, you have these digital marketing where you're selling these digital products.
Yep.
But the vast majority of the recurring stable revenue that they make is on selling courses on how to do that exact same thing.
Yeah.
And it's like this self-fulfilling, I'm like, that's not the life that I want to sell to people.
Yeah, it's like, look at me, look at what I've achieved. Now do the exact same thing and I'll teach you how.
Because here's the thing, when I think about myself, I'm like, okay, let's imagine you've gotten to that point.
Okay.
Let's imagine I've made 6 figures off of drop shipping, or off of TikTok theme pages, or
Yep.
digital marketing, or whatever it may be, right?
Bro, can I just interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
People are so funny. Every single time that we've been out here and someone else has showed up, they've come for like 30 seconds and then
Dude,
they
it's
leave.
like 5 minutes. Yeah. They do a walk over there, a walk over here, and they go.
Come back. It's beautiful. Like, stop by, say hi,
Yeah,
We're not scary.
Dude, I would love for one of them to be like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Right?
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to interrupt you again because, like, fuck all that and you. No, I'm joking.
Jesus.
I'm joking.
All right. Give me that shit.
Yeah, okay, go for it. What I wanted to say is this is so fascinating to me because this could turn into like an hour monologue of me telling a story about my life and how I became to be who I am. So I'm going to avoid the pain in doing that. And and what I want to just quickly mention is when I was younger, I did very similar things, and I had a very similar sort of, I wouldn't say a similar mindset, but man, the sun is hot today. I am roasting.
I might put on some sunscreen here just to play it safe. I'm actually gonna do that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Hold that thought. Alrighty. So, while Derek is taking a nice little pee break, we just applied some sunscreen, so hopefully we won't roast alive. The sun out here has been quite intense and lovely, but it hurts sometimes. Skin gets a little crispy. So how are you guys doing? How's life? All however many people that watch this. 2, 3, 9, 10, 15, 265,792. I don't know. Dude, there's so many bugs. But what I wanted to mention about what Derek, sir, has been talking about is it's so interesting to hear him talk like this because it completely contrasts the perspective that I've had for a lot of my life in recent times. And it's fascinating to me. So, yeah, he's coming back now. But I'll start that story really quickly and just kind of introduce what I was talking about in my past, where when I was a kid, when I was in high school, I used to do a lot of things. I was like into basically everything. And welcome back.
Great to be back.
And yeah, it was I did like band and jazz band and like all the sciences, blah blah blah. I was just like I was doing a lot, and I was always like, if I'm not a perfectionist at what I'm doing, then it's not worth my time, and I'm not going to keep doing it. And that mentality sort of seems a little bit parallel to what Derek's talking about now. But I'm still talking about you in third person, like you're not here. And it's really interesting because as time progressed, I became very, very distant from my emotions. And then I graduated high school. I was also pretty heavily bullied in grade 8 when I went back to public school because I was homeschooled, man. Like, it was bad. Like, I didn't know how to socialize with people my age. Like, those kids were mean. Everyone started, like, growing, like hormone changes, and it was just nasty. And so I kind of, like, retracted into myself a lot of the emotional qualities that make me who I am. And that started diminishing a lot when I went to university. So after high school, I left and went across the country and started studying architecture, and it beat the shit out of me. I went from getting like high 90s, hundreds in high school with not much effort to the first grade I ever got back in my university career was a history midterm. I got a 44.
Lowest I ever got was
rough.
a 57.
Hey, you passed.
Yeah.
I've
never failed anything, but that one was enough for me to put me into like, am I stupid?
Well,
was I like I was like, have I just been telling myself I'm smart? Like, am I really dumb? Oh my god! Like,
yeah. Now,
it made me question myself.
This mark for me, it didn't really cause me to try harder. It just, unfortunately,
like
encouraged a lot of yeah. I was like, man, I am actually worthless, and that took me pretty far into the depths of like, shut all of the emotions off. I am not in a safe place where I can actually feel myself or feel like myself. Not feel myself. We'll leave that for another story.
Hey, yo.
Yeah. Hey. And yeah. So first year went by. First year was one of the hardest years of my life. Obviously, I'm across the country. We're talking about Canada here. So across the country is like...
yeah, it's
like a decade.
It's a distance.
It's a
distance.
a minute.
Yeah.
And that was really tough. Second year comes around. I started dating this girl, and she came from an Asian family, and
shout out to all the Asians.
That's true.
Love the Asians.
And
What? What?
oh my god. Yeah. Love the Asians. And she fit right into that sort of stereotype of like perfection is not a goal, but it is an expectation. And I'm really not sure if it came from her parents or if it was quite literally just herself expecting that from herself. But it
was there.
It was there, and it ended up getting transferred over onto me. And I had a very difficult time living up to that expectation of perfection. And it was really sort of like contrasting. And so I started like trying really hard in school, and I started doing all these things. And as I was putting myself in this like completely uncomfortable setting of just doing things differently, I started to really like her. And it was really, really eye-opening for my emotional side, because that had been completely shut off for at least a couple years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And like back when I used to be in high school, I used to hang out with Ferris, and we'd be sitting in my car talking for hours about life, about physics, about space, about particles, about like cars, and like people that we see, people that are, you know, in our high school, and just curious about the world. But it never really got down to the, like, it was always sort of physical or materialistic, and we were always curious about the construct of reality and like why things are the way that they are. But it never got into like, what does it mean to feel a certain way, or what does it mean to feel alive, or you know, like, what is grief? Mm-hmm. And hey, it was pretty good. And yeah, so then I started liking this girl a lot. And I remember second year, I think it was still first semester, and I remember I had just visited, so the architecture building was right next door to industrial design, which was what she was studying. I literally had to take the bridge. It was like just an extended hallway, but it was a bridge over top of the walkway underneath into the next building. And her studio was just right over there. So it was like super close. And I remember I had gone to visit her during class or after class or something like that. And I walked out, and I was sitting in the hallway of her building right before the bridge. And I remember looking out the window, and I could see the bridge there. And I called my mom, and I was like, "Mom, what is going on? I'm in a lot of pain, but it's good." And I bawled my eyes out for like 45 minutes, probably, on the phone with my mom.
Okay.
And I was like, holy shit, like I'm starting to feel everything. I was feeling fear. I was feeling, you know, the possibility of potential loss. I was feeling apprehensive. I was feeling uncertain. I was feeling happy. I was feeling excited.
So it was like in that moment, the sort of artificial construct, the structure around your life where you go, this is what I should do to find value. This is how I operate. This is what all that kind of got torn down.
Everything just fell apart. And I started feeling everything. I started seeing every aspect of my life through my soul, through the eyes of emotions, and through the weight of what that actually feels like.
So I find myself coming into those phases, but I also think that it's a little bit different.
Shut up. One second.
Okay.
I want you to continue that in just a second.
The place I'm going with this is like, this started off where I was talking about, okay, there's all these different like things that I could do, and I know I could do well at them. Okay. And there's these expectations of like, oh, you could be this like drop shipper pushing out this or doing this or whatever. And you were in that same mindset. And
yeah, because it was that like perfection idea.
It's not it's a little around perfectionism. Like, I definitely think it has a play, but it's more along those lines of how can you best align what it is you choose to pursue to find prosperity in life with your values.
Yep.
And so, okay, in this moment, right, you kind of, you felt like the shell came crumbling down. You're opening up. You're feeling and seeing life in a new way, right? How did that translate into that specific side of life? And I think you're still trying to kind of figure that out, where how you can pursue a prosperous path forward that best aligns with your values and beliefs.
Yep.
But what would you say is the impact on that specific moment with that kind of like behavior of like, oh, moving in this direction?
Well, man, I would say that it just completely altered everything that I did, everything that I experienced. Like it was like a complete 180 from everything that I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, instead of, pushing for a goal that, meant something to my character and to how I am viewed in the world, it became, why is this important to who I am?
But you have to first figure out like how you define yourself before you can make that comparison, right?
Well, yeah, but it was part of discovering who I am. That's what I'm saying, though.
So they kind of went in tandem.
Yeah, because all of a sudden I was like, I'm not comfortable with who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know who that is. I go about my day and just do things. I accomplish things because either they're expected of me, or it's, something that I am doing for someone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and we talked about that as well.
Yeah. Like I'm going to the gym because it's something that that my girlfriend at the time, that she wanted to do, and sure, like I wanted to go to the gym as well. I was always going to the gym, but I would go with her when she wanted to, because that was kind of how I would make sure that things were okay. So I was like, you know what? If we do everything on your time, then I don't have to worry about, my choices being not okay, or what I want to do being not okay, or like. So
if you make all the decisions, then I don't risk myself of being wrong.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
And so this moment happened with the emotions, and everything just kind of opened up, and all of a sudden I actually started appreciating things that never really meant a lot to me. Like walking to class down the canal became less of a 25-minute walk. I've got 25 minutes to get there,
mm-hmm.
and more of I have 40 minutes to get there, and I'm going to take 40 minutes.
It was less of a chore and more of like a side effect of life.
Absolutely. And I actually started to appreciate the people in my life as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, I ended up getting into a fight with one of my roommates. I can't even remember what it was about. But I don't remember what happened. And to this day, by the way, we are still like the best of friends, which is hilarious. Shout out Matt. He calls me like all the time just to catch up. And we'll talk about life and stuff. Like he's such a cool guy. Big inspiration in my life, I would say. And it's so funny because we had a pretty massive falling out where one day something happened, and all of a sudden we just started like attacking who we are as people, back and forth. I was like calling him out for like having a god complex and like fucking over everyone in his life because he sees himself as better than everyone. And then he came back at me and was like calling me out for all of my shit, and I was like, man, fuck you. And I remember I got home and
you're branching out this way.
No, this is important.
Okay.
Trust me. And I remember I got home one day, like after we had fought, and I hadn't come home yet, and I came home. It was like 2 days later, and like it was so tense. I remember going down into it, like, because his room was in the basement. Stood outside his door, and he told me this afterwards, but he was literally holding like his karambit knife behind the door, like shaking because he was scared that I was gonna come in and attack him. And I was like, holy shit.
Not a good testimonial.
No. Like, I was like, are you kidding me? Because I went down there and I was knocking on his door and I was like, man, we need to talk about this. And like, like that's like I can't keep living knowing that we have this in between us.
Yeah.
And this man was scared for his life, I guess. Um, so a couple years later, we actually went back and talked about this, and it was really interesting looking back and actually hearing both sides of the perspective and not understanding each other, and being like, hey, you know what? Being more in touch with that emotional side. This is my realization.
Mm-hmm.
What are you?
I think that's a horsefly.
That is a flying horse.
You're good. You're good. So I'm gonna fuck with you.
I hope not. And I realized that being more in touch with my emotional side was dangerous, because rather than looking at life logically and seeing every interaction as something that was, like a transaction, something that was like, hey, I can get so and so out of this interaction that will benefit myself, and that's what I care about because I am the only one that is truly looking out for myself.
Mm.
I actually flipped that and started kind of unhealthily taking everything personally, and started seeing.
You went to the other deep end.
Completely opposite, yeah. And
when was this? What year range would you say?
So I was 20. Not I was 19, 20. 19, 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And as time progressed, I started appreciating my emotional side more. And so then when I had that conversation with Matt, and we actually revisited that moment in our friendship, hearing both sides of it, we were both going through the same sort of emotional awakening and frustrations. And we both were taking things personally to the max.
Mm-hmm.
And I had told him actually after the fact that, hey man, when I went down there and was like knocking on your door, like I wanted to burst in there and give you a hug and like fucking bawl my eyes out and tell you how sorry I was, because I didn't know what to do. And we didn't understand each other in that moment because we were both lashing out emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such an interesting like transition from being this like so focused on just getting things done for the sheer importance of like maintaining that machine aspect of like, hey, I need to do this and I need to do that and I need to get this done for school and I need to get that done for school.
Well, and it like that mentality bleeds into all of the tiny things. And you
Yes.
can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but there's lots of times where it'll be like, oh, let's go out. And I go, well, why would I spend $15 on a dinner with you when I could spend like $23 on meal prep and that will last me 3 days instead
Yep.
of one meal?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like, why would I spend my time to go out with you and go dancing when I could spend my time instead working on my homework and be more prepared for, or get this specific grade? Why? It's like all those tiny things where you're completely, if you take all those moments and those experiences away, like there's obvious times where it's like, oh, this is something that's special, let's enjoy it for the sake of the experience and for the moment. But it's those tiny things where you go, man, like this last month I've denied 24 opportunities to bring something new into my life, a little bit of an adventure, a piece of an adventure.
Yep.
And I've replaced that instead with something that's for this completely other reason. And sometimes that's okay. Like sometimes it's focus on your dreams and pursue your dreams. And if other people are being distractions, I think there's a right and a wrong way to cut those out of your life.
Totally.
But I think you can take it too far. And I think I'm on that path right now where I'm taking that too far. And so I think here's something that I appreciate about our dynamic, which is I think a lot of the times when we talk, a lot of the baseline assumptions don't need to be spelled out. And so we can strictly focus on the complexities of the situation or the concept instead of having to set up the entire environment around it. Like there's some times where it's like, oh, okay, we have to define a specific term that's being used so that we can attack what it is that we're talking about. But most of the times we can dive straight into what's being talked about, and we ask the questions that matter and we can explore it together. And so the one thing I'm hoping I didn't forget about it, and by me saying that, I probably did forget about it. There's something I wanted to mention. Right. I feel as though growing up, it was I was like the golden child. You had to do this. You had to get good grades. There was a lot of praise around my performance in a lot of things. And so then what that transitioned to is, okay, people expect this out of me. Let me translate that into other areas of my life. And so then now a lot of the times my mom will come to me for advice. My dad will come to me for advice. And when they come to me for advice, you can sense there's a little bit of that intimidation. You know, when you're asking your parent for something and you go like, hey, like, I don't know, I just wanted to like pick your brain on something. Like, I was kind of curious about this. Like, I was thinking like of doing this, right? Like, and you can tell when they say it, they're almost waiting for your validation. And I get that from my parents sometimes. And so I go, wait a minute, like my parents are seeking validation out of me, right? And so then, and my siblings are seeking validation out of me. And they're asking me for advice and they're asking me for my input. And there's a lot of that. And so then I think that's reinforced a lot of those behaviors where it's like, I have to be this for them because it's like they are giving me this respect. I need to make sure that I fulfill that 10 times over and that I'm worthy of that. And the only way for me to be worthy of that is if I dig myself into that ground and find, you know, like, what was the phrasing? The beauty in the suffering or something along those lines?
Something like that, yeah. Like the poetry in illness.
Yes.
So what I want to ask you, though, is at the end of the day, when you have suffered the poetry of illness, per se, right? What does it mean to you? And how do you feel about yourself when, like take everything away. Take all of the expectations, all of the, you know, validation that you are giving yourself because other people might be looking up to you, or because other people on the internet might look at you and your life and how you portray it on the internet. Take all of that away, and I want you to look at yourself directly and what makes you proud to be who you are, and what causes you to sort of feel like what you're doing is worth it. That's my question.
There's different levels to it. There's, at the base level, it's that I'm actualizing my potential. Okay. It's very interesting because I've asked a lot of very brilliant people, do you attribute your brilliance to yourself? And all of them have said yes. And I think that's the wrong answer. And I go, I didn't pick my brain. I was born with it. It was a gift.
Right.
And I think that those gifts should be used. And I think that one of the most tragic things in life is wasted potential. And so I think I feel as though I've been given a gift. And so I feel as though I need to put it to work and I can't let it go to waste. And so sometimes it's like I'll try to maximize that. And so I feel like that's something that I take pride in, is that I try to maximize that effect. And so when it's like, how do I view myself? What do I take pride in about myself? What are things about myself that I appreciate?
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that I've realized that and I go, no, this is something that's not a part of me. I can't take pride in my brilliance. I can take pride in the fact that I'm using it to try and help myself and others. I can take pride in the fact that I know that I work hard when it matters. I take pride in the fact that I know when tragic moments happen in life that I step up and make sure that everybody's okay. I know that when the subtlety of suffocation in people's well-being, that I can recognize that and assist in some way. And even though all of those things are related to other people, right? It's like, it's all from the fact that I've observed these moments in my life and I have been able to fix them because of that mindset. I don't need anyone. I'll fix it myself.
Right.
And so then I know the subtle hidden details involved in the way people act, in the way people talk, in the way people do specific things in their life or approach specific things in their life, that I go, wait a minute, I know where that's coming from. And whether you do or you don't, I want to let you know that you're not alone. And that has been the main driving force of all of this. And so then sometimes it's like I will dig myself super deep because I go, if I dig myself super deep and I suffer super hard, that's when I can learn about all those intricate details, not only so that I can come out stronger, but then also I can have a newfound appreciation for others' suffering. And yet again, all of that is still around other people, right? It's like the things that I take pride in myself, there's not a whole lot. And I don't necessarily believe that's the wrong thing. I think you need to have a balance of both.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can be a complete lone wolf in complete isolation and go, yeah, I really enjoy building my own house. It's like, all right, dude, but why are you doing it? I think there's the other side of like, yeah, I really enjoy being part of this very rich social network, right, and support group.
Okay.
And I think you need to have both. And at the moment, I think because it's like I have both, but it's the framing around a lot of it has been the framing around of it. Oh my God, English, Derek Urban, you can do
The
this.
framing around of it being around of it framed.
Yes, the entire flavor of that entire dynamic is Derek, work your ass off, be a good example of what other people can work towards. But then I go, wait a minute, like I'm pulling a David Goggins for discipline. If I go all the way extreme in all these aspects of my life, people can strive in that direction.
Yep.
But I'm now rethinking of, do I want to be the example of the direction people should strive towards? Right? Because most of the times, like, you shouldn't be working 13-hour days. That's not sustainable.
Nope.
Right? So it's not, I'm like, oh yeah, but it's the direction. If I'm the extreme, then people can go, I should work towards this. Right? But maybe it's better to be the destination as the example, as opposed to the direction. Because my philosophy is if I'm in such a powerful extreme, that gives you such a powerful vector with such a powerful direction that it captivates people's attention and they go, oh, I should be in this direction. Right? But oftentimes, the destinations that those directions point towards are not sustainable, are not healthy, and they're extreme versions of the sustainable version. And so I go, oh, well, if I'm at the extreme, then people's journeys towards that extreme, they'll find their version of what's sustainable instead of me finding my version of what's sustainable. And so oftentimes I go, well, I should be at a young age, financially well off, financially prosperous, where I can quell a lot of the financial concerns for my family so that they don't have to worry about that. I should be that person. I should be the person that people look up to for advice because that's what people have been giving me, that respect. And I want more of that because that's where I derive my value. I should be the person who is super disciplined in these areas because when people aren't disciplined, they come to me for advice. I should be the person who's super outgoing, super creative, super all these. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm stretching myself in all these different directions. But all these directions are so that I can be an extreme example so that other people can look to me for advice. Because that's how I've built up my entire self-worth deriving value system. That's where I find my value. And so it's now that I've taken a step back and I've gone, wait a minute, like the whole Western ecosystem is designed around this fast-paced, high-pressure, how much can you carry, right? That if you want to truly thrive in playing that game, you have to have these rules. And so I played out those rules for 3 days and I go, I'm fucking miserable. And I go, this is not what I want.
It's not what you signed up for.
Right. And the thing is during that entire 3 days, and I'll go into the rules. Oh my God. So close. I'm very impressed.
I hate that.
I'll go into the rules in a second so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. But
good.
The driving thing after those 3 days was when I get out of these 90 days, then I can go, I did this for 90 days. I tortured myself for 90 days, right? This is the validation for you to treat me with some kind of respect or view me in some kind of way so that way I can I don't know. Like I have that in my resume. Like I've done this, right? Yeah. So now when you're dealing with specific things, it's like I've already been there. Like I'm already the shining example of what you could be if you went down this path. But then I'm going the path of like the fast-paced Western outcome-based, how much money you make, what job you're doing, how many right, whatever it may be, those measures of status. The path that all of that goes down, I go, that's not even the end of that road is misery. It's not even a good path, right? And that's why so many, billionaires, where the majority of billionaires are from Western country, the majority of them are fucking miserable, right?
Or
so the
pieces of shit.
Yeah, so the rules were I have to work minimum 12 hours a day.
Okay.
I have to exercise every day. I have to follow my strict diet every day.
Okay.
I have to meditate every day, read every day. I have to wake up and go to bed at specific times, which it's like you should be doing that anyway. That's not bad. I have to reduce the amount of time it takes me from waking up to getting out of bed. I have to avoid all social media. I have to avoid all of my vices.
Okay.
All alcohol, all masturbation, all anything like that. Basically, every source of dopamine cut out of my life, and it's all just work, projects, etc. And so my day would look like I would wake up, I would get instantly out of bed, make my bed, I would get dressed, I would go for a walk. I'd come back from my walk, I'd do breakfast. While I'm eating breakfast, I would be working for a 3-hour deep focus grind session.
Right.
Then coming out of that, I would meditate or read a little bit, take a little bit of a break while I get my second meal of the day. And I try to eat 4 or 5 meals a day, right? Smaller meals, but more frequently.
Yeah.
Right? Then while I'm doing that,
benefits me too.
I would be learning or doing something, right? Break up that work. Then I'd do another hour, half of deep work. Then I would get another little bit of something to eat. Well, like exercise, eat, shower, right? Whether I eat before I exercise or eat after, doesn't matter. Then I would come back, do another hour of a half of work. Then eat again, then another hour and a half of some project, right? And then it would basically be that until about 9:30, and I would go, okay, I have an hour, and now I'm going to wind down. Now I'm going to unplug. Now I'm going to either just grab myself a tea, or sit down and meditate, or reflect on my day, or film a little something, or do whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then it would be repeat.
Okay.
And it would be constant go, go, go. But all of those are for the sake of me going, I'm not enjoying this. Right? The poetry and the suffering and the misery. That was the driving force. And I go, that driving force isn't strong enough for me. And then I'd beat myself up because I'm like, you can't even hold yourself to these discipline standards.
Interesting. So,
but then it's not even worthwhile because I'm like, wait a minute, I've already proved to myself in 2 very potent life experiences that I can get through the hardship when it matters. I know that I can step up when it matters.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I trying to prove to myself that I have that discipline when it doesn't matter? Right?
Yeah, like you need to prove
lost,
yourself that you have that discipline when it does matter.
But you have to. It's like.
When the opportunity arises, you prove to yourself that you have the discipline to be able to do something like that when the goal is meaningful enough that it has soul in itself.
Well, and it's that whole, I'm going to pursue a 7-figure business in bricklaying because I'm going to pursue a 7-figure business. Not because I know bricklaying, not because I like bricklaying, none of that garbage, right? It's like, I'm just doing it for the sake of the outcomes.
Yep.
And so then I've been like, fuck, man, this isn't
okay. That's totally okay if that's is your driving factor, and
sure. But that's
and
not.
You wake up every day and it brings you inspiration and joy and knowing that is coming can actually be that driving force, and if that is powerful enough to carry you through those years of suffering, then maybe it is worth it. And what I find really cool is hearing you talking about this. You have a lot of potent purpose for being the way that you are. It's not like you just woke up one day and you were like, I am a machine.
None of it is accidental.
And we're going, right? And exactly, none of it is accidental. And you kind of proved that very briefly last Saturday. So when you came over to pick me up to actually head out here. I was eating breakfast with my mom. And you sat down at the table with us. And of course, it's my mom, so we're talking about supplements and nutrition and stuff, and the topic got brought up about multivitamins, and my mom was like, you should be taking a multivitamin at least, and you were like, no, I take these specific vitamins in their most potent form because I have done the research and experimented with myself to know that this is the most beneficial sort of
like setup
concoction.
Yeah,
exactly. And that was like, yeah, that is the Derek that I know, where nothing that you do is a shot in the dark. Everything has been pre-calculated. Everything has been sort of, you've weighed the pros and cons. You've understood that, hey, if I do things this way, it's going to lead to this result. And if I do things that way, it's going to lead to that result. And if there are uncertainties in the mix, I will do things this way to minimize every single uncertainty that I can account for. And that is, like, in many ways, really, really impressive, because it shows that you're constantly aware of where you want to be, where you are, what you're doing, and how you want to get to where you want to be, right? It proves that you have that mindset of, like, nothing that I do is accidental and nothing about who I am is accidental. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is because some of the qualities that define us and that actually give us, like, a rooted sense of meaning and a rooted sense of belonging are the most meaningful when they are accidental, and when they have a birthplace that is unknown, or something that is undefined, or something that you cannot comprehend, because that goes beyond your understanding of this was a calculated risk or a calculated reward, and I achieved that, calculated reward because I played my cards right based on a calculated risk, right? Now, what I find interesting about that in particular is, for me, meaning falls from things that I don't have control over much more than things I do have control over. And the reason why is because, there's a chipmunk. He just ran over there. When I have full control and full sort of, like, calculated power over a certain situation, the result is always going to be, something that I have predetermined to be what I want it to be, right? And that is, a really powerful skill to have, for sure. And the fact that you can do that in so many different faculties of your life, if not all of them, is really, really cool. But do you ever find that the meaning, or sort of like the potency of those results, often are tainted by the fact that, hey, I've now reached those goals and they didn't feel as fulfilling as I thought that they would be, or because I was able to control this so well and got to this reward, now that maybe I'm not as satisfied with the reward as I thought I would be, now you can go back and beat yourself up because you're like, I didn't calculate this as optimized as I could have. Because everything is so controlled and because everything is so calculated, you can go back and dissect yourself and actually thoroughly beat the shit out of yourself for not knowing how much more you could have actually achieved, or how much less the achievement is actually going to mean to you. And for me, when I get to spots in my life when I achieve something, or when something happens that, is, like a meaningful event or a meaningful moment in time, I find that the ones that I don't have control over, that are accidental, are ones that I hold on to much more than anything else. And that goes back to, like, thinking about social settings and, like, social interactions as, if you view it as like solely as like a transaction, right? Where I'm going to view this social interaction as transactional as possible, so that when I come out of this, I can look back and be like, I did what I believe, a perfect sort of Derek Urban would do in this moment, and I got exactly what I needed out of that. But if you go into it not having an expectation and allowing for unexpected uncertainties to pop up and to surprise you and to alter the setting or the moment itself, then those are the things that are going to potentially have greater meaning because they come from a source that is uncontrolled and that is outside of you.
So I think that's what an adventure is, right? Is going into it without expectation and seeing what happens.
In any sense, yeah, absolutely. That is adventure.
But I don't beat myself up because I didn't have control. Like, I know very well going into any situation, these are the things that I have control over. These are the things that I don't.
Okay.
Then I also have, within that same set, these are the things I have control over and I should care about. And these are the things I have control over that I shouldn't. And these are the things I don't that I should care about. And these are the things that I don't that I shouldn't. And so it's more along the lines of when you have this plan and it works and you think about yourself highly enough that you go, this is the expected performance out of me. I should be able to do this. I should be able to perform this test. I should be able to get this grade. I should be able to get this job. I should be able to complete this project. I should be able to manage this deliverable, et cetera, et cetera. When it's based off of I should, the second you get to those points, you go, all right, what's the next thing?
Yep.
And it's never I did this.
Yeah.
It's yeah, of course I did.
Of course, exactly.
And it's a problem that I faced the entire time where it's like, okay, people are giving me praise, but I don't feel it. It's like, yeah.
Like how could you have calculated actual,
I don't think it's
self-achievement or like that's, how could you have calculated that sensation of, wow, I did this into the equation?
I don't think it's a problem with the calculation. I think it's a problem with I don't know exactly where it comes from quite yet, but
With
it's
the lack of soul.
I don't know. I think it's the lack of adventure.
Huh.
Like when I think all my time in university, like I'm like, all right, I got university out of the way. I got my degree, blah, blah, blah. Like all that's done.
With honors, distinction, yeah, blah, blah, blah.
But genuinely, it's like you stack that up statistically, that's an accomplishment. You stack that up socially, that's an accomplishment. But it's like, I don't feel like it is. I feel like that's just what I was supposed to do. Right?
Okay.
And it's the consequence you get with expectation, which is when, you can never exceed it. When you have high expectations, you can never exceed it, so you never accomplish anything. Right? And yeah, it's like that's I think the problem I run into more. I never beat myself up from not being able to calculate something because I think the only way for me to figure out, oh, that's a variable I wasn't considering, is for me to have gone through that process of
that's good
missing that calculation.
Totally, yeah.
Right? It's like
and
a
you're
healthy,
like, wow, I learned something.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's more of the fact that, okay, I did this accomplishment. Like, I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, let's say, okay, this startup company pops off. And I know very well, in great detail, a lot of the struggle that went into it. And a lot of the uncertainty and anxiety.
Yep.
Even if I got there, would I think, wow, I pulled it off? Or
would you be like, yeah, of course I did?
Or would I be, of course I did? Or would I just be looking forward to the people's reactions when they go, oh my God, like you did that? And I would be playing it down. I'd be like, yeah, but it was like nothing, Like, what is it that I look
What
forward
is the
to?
reward? Like, what is going to finally make you feel satisfied?
The main reason I got on board is because I'm like, yeah, using this technology is something that helped me out. And I think it can help out a lot of other people. That's what got me on. And the more I'm going...
That is potent. I like that a lot.
Right, but it's figuring out that same shift in other areas of my life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, just kind of branching back to that, talking about like digital marketing, all these things that people really push and advertise. At the moment, like Instagram is a big cesspool of, especially in the entrepreneur finance, personal growth space, it's a cesspool of, I have the lifestyle that you want, and I'm going to sell you something on how to get it, right? And don't get me wrong, a lot of the people have done the work, a lot of the people haven't. But I think if I were to post on my social media accounts, if I were to build a personal brand around this, would I feel fulfilled? Would I feel happy about it? Or would I feel like another fucking shill who's just shill?
What's a shill?
A shill is like someone who just like latches onto an idea, like sells it really quickly and then moves on. Like it's not deeply rooted with who they are. It's like oh my god, like fidget spinners are hot. I'm gonna sell a bunch of fidget spinners, right? That's what a shill is.
Okay.
And so I'm like that's a fucking facade. Like, do I want if I were to think of my ancestors looking at this, or my parents, or my family, or my friends, the people who know me,
yep,
would they be proud of the things that I'm putting out there? And some people would be like, oh my god, it looks like he's really having it made for himself. Like, good for this guy.
Yep.
But to me, I'd be like, this is all fake. I'm doing this for the numbers. I'm doing this for to selling this lifestyle, so that way I can have you buy my course. I can have you subscribe to my community, so that way I can be making $10,000 a month to support the lifestyle, so that I can repeat the process.
Yep.
And meanwhile, you're paying me on expectations that I can't wholeheartedly deliver. And the things that I'm telling you are not that far off from standard entrepreneurial principles, like find a niche, solve it, right? Come up with some solution, MVP. Like, all that shit is standard. You don't need to wrap it around this. I live this luxurious lifestyle at the age of 26, because what I actually did is try drop shipping or whatever, found some kind of success with it, screenshotted that entire process, then replicated that process and system and sold it to a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
And I made 90% of my money from selling it to other people as opposed to the actual process itself.
And
I think that's just adding more to the problem.
Yeah.
And so I've been actually thinking a lot about what is the Derek Urban brand? If I were to put something out there for other people to truly look at and I can feel proud of, what is that?
What is that?
And I've been thinking about it a lot recently, and it's on my phone, but my phone's obviously being used to record this.
Were you looking for your phone again?
A little bit. It's about, like, balanced ambition. Not letting your ambition completely control your life. Okay. Right? It's about holistic living. Right? It's okay not to go 100% into work. It's okay to spend a day not to do any work unless you work genuinely 9 to 5 and there's expectations and responsibilities you have to fulfill, right?
Yes.
But taking a day to yourself,
still have 2 days for the weekend,
and giving yourself a day and going, you know what, today I'm just going to spend time with a friend. I'm going to reach out to a friend. I'm going to spend time with a friend. And I'm just going to enjoy the presence of someone else's company, right?
Thanks for being here.
Likewise, right? Like this, I look forward to this, right? Because this is a moment where I get to set aside that time, right?
Yeah.
Balance ambition. There's some other principles where I'm trying to define out some real terminology, but it's intentful living. It's not like going on your phone and just scrolling a bunch and doom scrolling and then wasting a bunch of an hour because you're bored and you don't know what to do.
And you're searching for something that's going to feed that boredom.
Right.
But it's always fleeting.
Right. It's like, I want to spend this next hour to just disconnect and distract myself. That's completely different than finding yourself in a situation where you are distracted, as opposed to going into it and being like, I should be distracted here. Right. And I really want to cultivate that out and start preaching what I'm gonna try and practice, because I think that that's gonna be our biggest struggle today. And me posting like a bunch of fucking TikToks or social media or a bunch of random shit that I know will make me money, I can't do that because it just goes against my morals. I wouldn't feel proud of who I'm becoming. I don't want to chase I'm a rich, successful young person at the expense of added a bunch of fucking brain rot to people's feeds, having, posted a bunch of meaningless content that I think is egotistical and just, feeds into specific programs. Like, there's this one guy, he's this Asian dude, and you'll notice he has the same fucking B-roll every time of him with his long, perfect hair, writing down notes, studying, on calls, talking, all sort of shit. Okay. His whole personal brand is, I'm a 26-year-old who's successful at academics, who works with top biotech companies, who runs 7-figure businesses. And what does he sell? What does he promote? I have systems designed out. Buy my course and I'll teach you. Join my community of like-minded individuals who want to be successful and who want to pursue this growth in their life, right? His whole persona is that. All the content he pushes out is people like, me trusting the process, knowing that the war is over now that I have all this money. It's, people still going through academics, not knowing about listing off the things he came up with, second brain, etc., blah, 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 right? It's people struggling, to figure out how to, find prosperity in their life and financial success and freedom and academic performance and stuff like that, and not finding me. It's like, that's his whole brand, and credit to the guy, you found success.
Yeah.
But that's just, I can't put that shit out. If I was in his situation, and let's say it was the exact same account, the exact same person, but it was me, and it was genuine, and I had to look at myself and go, damn, I work with top bio companies.
Yeah.
I'm a successful academic. I run a seven-figure business. I've paid off all my family debts. I'm putting out a bunch of content about how people can get to the same thing as me.
Mm-hmm.
To a lot of people, they go, that's helping. That's good enough. That'd be a great life to live.
Yeah.
I have a fuck ton of money. There's no financial struggles. I can spend time doing what I want. I'm pursuing something that's meaningful. But to me, I look, what am I actually putting out into the world? And this could be short-sighted, and I could be wrong. But to me, it's, I'm selling people a dream and a lifestyle that makes me richer. And at the end of the day, the lifestyle that I'm selling them is something that I know full well most of them will not be able to accomplish because it's me. It's like, I got here, not them. And so I can sell them the systems, but those systems were tailored for me, not everyone else. Right? And do I want to be the person who's putting out a bunch of content talking about how successful I am and how they can be successful too? I don't think that's the right approach. I think there's a problem in there, and I haven't quite clearly articulated, I can't quite clearly articulate it yet, but it's, I think, that distinction of, I found success in my life, and I want to sell you the lifestyle on how you can get that same success, as opposed to, I found success in my life, and this is where I think it came from, and it stops there.
And just telling your journey rather than giving steps to do exactly what you
trying
did.
To design and market out a system as opposed to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I find it very uncomfortable that, like, you have 12,000 members paying you $35 a month for you to tell them about how you found your success.
Yeah. You know, what's really funny is that it correlates directly to the health industry, where one person might be like, this is how I found perfect health, and now I'm going to market the exact diet, the exact meal plan, the exact fitness regimen, and I'm going to sell this, and if people do exactly what I did, they will look like me, they will feel like me, and they will be really, really happy and successful. It's the same kind of thing. And that, to me, is one of the biggest downfalls of this sort of generation of content and just consumerism, where people see results. People see others posting their results, and they're like, I want those results. And I'm going to do exactly what they did, and I'm going to pay for it, and I'm going to get their regimen, their routine, and if I follow it strictly, I'm going to get, I'm going to turn out exactly like they did, right? And it's the same sort of thing, where that is tailored very directly to that specific person, and they might not be selling the full picture. They might not be talking about all of the health problems that they had along the way, because their regimen actually caused them to get serious health problems, and only after they had, maybe surgery or some like crazy downfall that it, picking it back up again started to, actually work maybe. And it's the same thing to me, because obviously with, my mother being a nutritionist, that is the side that I'm exposed to, and that is what I see all the time. Even with, doctors, it's like, hey, you know what? I treated this patient that had this diagnosis or this disease per se, right? And I gave them this medication, and I told them to take these supplements or do this, whatever it is, and now I'm going to prescribe this for everyone that has this disease or this altercation.
I think it is a little bit like that, but I also I was reflecting on what I just said, and I think, okay, if you've figured out some unknown area of life,
okay,
Like, let's say, okay, like what's really popular right now is social media marketing, because a lot of businesses want to figure out how they can best translate what their business sells, their product, services, etc., into a social media campaign.
Yeah, because that's what's popular.
Right. And if you figure out something like that, that's valuable and that's worthwhile.
Absolutely.
And you should get paid for that. If you figured out something like that that's complicated, that it is a valuable thing.
Absolutely.
Right? The problem, I think, when it comes to these selling lifestyles is that you're never selling the lifestyle to someone who's content with their life. And so the way I see it is, it's like you're almost preying on the hopeful or the hopeless, or the people who are lost and confused, and you are selling them, hey, I have the answer for you, I have the solution for you, and maybe you do, and I hope to God that a lot of these people do, but a lot of the things that I'm seeing where people are finding success is they'll sell you on a lifestyle, and the people who are wanting to buy this lifestyle are the people who are lost, confused. They go, I want to make money, I don't know how to do it, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go, and they're feeling the pressures of this Western environment that is fast-paced, that is, occupationally based, right? That has these specific metrics of social status. And people go, I want a lot of this stuff. And someone goes, well, I got it doing this, and I'll teach you how to do that.
Yep. And so they sell the hope.
And they do sell them the hope, and a lot of the times they do sell them the systems that work.
Sure.
And
absolutely.
And for a lot of people, that'll be enough. But if I was selling this to my younger brother, right? Is this what I would want them to do? And there's a big part of it, well, it's like, yeah, because they might find financial freedom and they might find this success and they might, there might be a lot of benefits towards their life. And my cousins are very much the same. Like Ty and Brett, they're working on like oil rigs and stuff, or not oil rigs, but like fracking. They're frackers. It's like, you don't do fracking for the love of the game. You do it for the money.
I would assume so. Unless you're really into almost dying every day because you're working with big rigs and stuff.
Right, and so it's more of like, I want to sell people more on what they can do, not for the love of the game, or not for like the love of the status, outcomes, money, whatever it is, but for the love of the game itself. And so I don't want to tell someone like, hey, I have this system and pay me $35 and I'll teach you everything about that system. But like, especially when it comes to lifestyle, like if it's a specific niche, like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do consulting work on AI because I know a lot about its limitations, implementation details, etc. That's a different thing than I can sell you the answer to the hopelessness that you're finding in your life.
Yeah, but that's a very empty thing, because there is no one answer that fits everyone's life. There is no one size fits all.
I don't know. There's something wrong there. I can't quite put my finger on it.
Well,
there's just something that bugs me.
Yes,
like I can't
absolutely.
see myself doing it. It's just I'm like, I think there's a different message that should be said.
There is, and the message should be said that, like, hey, maybe you're like, hey, this is how I got successful, and this is how I got successful, and I want to share my story and talk about, my struggles as an inspiration so that you can find similar feelings in your life and similar aspects of motivation in your life that allow you to find the journey that best fits you.
That's I think more along the lines of like, because here's the thing, there's nothing wrong with 9-to-5s. It gets bastardized nowadays, and everyone's like, oh, you got to be an entrepreneur, you got to have your own thing. But
I actually quite enjoy my 9-to-5.
It's and 9-to-5
makes me feel good.
Safety and security, and it's a network of people, and there's a lot of really great benefits to it.
Totally.
But yeah, a lot of young people, you talk to them and they're like, I'm gonna start my own business. It's hard, man. It's really hard, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort.
And they're like, oh, I'm just gonna start my own business, so I have all this freedom. And it's like, yeah, you might have freedom in like 10 years or 5 years or something, but you're not gonna be doing a 9-to-5 until then. You're gonna be doing like a 12 to or like a 12-hour 7 days a week kind of thing.
Well, and I think it's like there's different, like people are in different situations, right? Like there's some people out there I know full well where they go, man, I'm working 3 jobs, shit's tough, I got to get out of the trenches.
Yes.
I don't have a good message for you, because I was never there, right? And so I can never give you something that valuable. But to the people out there who go, my life is comfortable, right? Like a lot of people in Canada are not suffering. Like their suffering is, man, like I have this apartment, but rent's a little too high, and I can't travel as much as I like.
And
I eat out a lot, and I should probably eat out less. And it's like, yeah, you've got your own set of problems, but those aren't serious problems, right? Like,
yeah, like you're not having to pick up a second job to pay for rent.
You're not.
You might be living
to feed yourself and family.
Yeah, like you might be living paycheck to paycheck, but it's not like you're going to starve.
It's not like that paycheck to paycheck is barely holding together the minimum amount of quality of life that's keeping you afloat, right? It's like you're living a decent quality of life that's paycheck to paycheck, sure. But I want to give the message more for the people who are figuring out how to find balance, how to reject a lot of the biases and assumptions that this generation and this society has. That's what I want to do. I want to go, look, you don't have to listen to all this bullshit. You don't have to absorb all of this, the shit that you're seeing every day in, day out, that's going to morph your perspective. You can reject all that, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And you can take the time to slow down and be confused and not have it all figured out. You don't have to chase this status. You don't have to chase this outcome. It's going to be okay if you don't, right? And I want to propose a approach that's more along the lines of, look at the sources of happiness in your life. Try to figure out how you can have a little bit more of those. Look at the sources that are fulfilling but prosperous, the ones that keep you alive, right? Like there's some things where it's like, man, I work 2 jobs, I have a family, I don't have a lot of time on my plate to really think about what keeps me happy, whatever it may be, right? And then I would counter that with, if that is the quality of life that you're going to settle for, I don't have anything to say to you. But if you think that there's some part of you that's worth more than that, if there's some dream within that message that you can pursue whilst also maintaining a fulfilling life that has like that's a very holistic approach, that's what I want, where I want to tailor my message, right? Where it's like I want to try and develop some core pillars that reject this brain rot, high distraction, attention-based ecosystem.
Yep.
Because that is the way of the world, right? And that is what people are paying for. People are like, the reason like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, social media, all of those are free is because you're paying with your attention. And
what is that?
That's a big bug, eh? Look at that. Does that disturb you?
No, I want to see it.
Some beetle, I think. When I was younger, one flew right on my chest and I freaked the fuck out.
I want to take a picture of that. Where's my phone?
Yeah, sure.
Hey guys, Derek from the future here. Now, unfortunately, we lost the last 15 minutes of this episode. My phone died due to the heat. Colton's phone was dead. We couldn't re-record it, but you didn't miss much. It was just a conclusion, wrapping everything up in a bow, really packaging up the main points of the podcast to kind of leave you off with a nice little tidbit, bite-sized piece of wisdom that you can carry with you. But unfortunately, we don't have that, so we're going to end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and I will catch you guys in the next one.